Hi, this is Maria. I'm going to show how to do this week's layout in Jenny Gollan's Big White DigiBujo 2018, but honestly this will work with any journal you have. The process is the same. So first, let's start from scratch. In Goodnotes, I'm going to click the three dots at the top right and clear the page. We're going to start from scratch. I'm going to click those three dots again and click Export. Export current page. Format is image. Click image again and export. Save to the camera roll. That will just give me proper sizing in Procreate. So I'm going to open Procreate, click that plus sign, and click screen size just to give me a big canvas. I'm just going to make that smaller so I can see what I'm doing and grab my photo album. This is an iPad Pro and I'm just picking up my last image, which was my journal. This way when I drop and draw things, it will be inside of the right parameters. So I keep an album in my photos where I keep all my stickers, purchase stickers that I've bought, and I just find it easier to keep them in the cloud this way, and I just drag them over. So now I'm going to click my layers at the top right, add a layer, and I'm going to look through my brushes and pick the brush pack that's called Flowers and Leaves, and I'm just looking for a flower in this pack. The beauty with brushes is you tap the screen and you get a design. There's no drawing involved. So now I've selected a red color from my color palettes, and I'm going to pick a flower brush and I'm going to tap the screen, and then I'm going to use the arrow tool to just put that into position on my journal page. Okay, so now I go back, add another layer. I'm going to pick a pretty green. I'm going to add a couple of leaves in here. So these are my color palettes. I just click the color dot at the top right to get my color palettes. Now I'm going to go back to my brushes and I'm going to, it's the same brush pack, I'm going to select a leaf spray, make sure I have the right green that I want, and then I can size that a little bit and tap the screen, take my arrow tool and move it around and use my tools at the bottom to flip and rotate to exactly where I want it to be, and just place it. Then just go up to my layers, swipe left and duplicate. Now I have two leaves. I'm going to use my arrow to flip and move that second leaf. It is in its own layer, so I can move it independently and get it just where I want it. Once I'm happy, I'll just drop it there. Click that arrow tool. I'm going to go back to my layers and I'm going to move the red flower layer to the top, just so that the leaves are behind it once I start coloring. Okay, and then I'm going to just size this bigger, just pinch with your fingers, and I'm going to go back to my leaves and swipe to the left, duplicate. I'm just going to add more leaves here, use that same arrow tool, flip, and I'm going to make this one smaller, just so there's a little variety, and drop that into place. So I'm going to go to layers and I'm going to pinch the top and bottom layers of the leaves, pinch them together, and that puts them in one layer. Now I'm going to go into the eraser tool and pick up a standard Procreate airbrush, and I'm going to just size that to erase all of the green leaves that are coming through on the flower layer. Now the flower is in its own layer, so I'm not erasing that. I'm just cleaning up the green because it will show through when I lay the color into my flower. So we're just going to clean that up. This is a standard Procreate brush that came with the program. I did not buy this separately. And we'll just clean up and move on. So we go back to layers, make sure that flower layer is a reference. It didn't show, but just click the layer and select reference, add a new layer, and then I'm going to click my selector tool and automatic at the bottom, and that will let me touch and select just the items that I want to cover with the color already selected in my color dot at the top. Then open layers again, and in that new layer I'm going to fill layer, and there's my color dot filling the selected items from before. Now I'm going to click the N on that layer and lower the opacity. That orange was a little too bright. I decided I didn't like that orange. We're going to go back to the color dot, pick a different color, go back to layers, click and fill layer again, and that changed. That was a very quick color change. So I'm going to click that N again and adjust the opacity again to bring it up a little higher. We're going to add another layer, pick another color, go back to my brushes. I'm going to pick an artistic wet acrylic brush. This came standard with Procreate, and I'm just going to size that so the paintbrush is fairly small, and I'm just painting some yellow into my petals. This is in its own layer, so I'm not actually touching the red. We're just going to fill in and see how we like this to give the flowers a little dimension. And we're just going to do all of them, a little bit of yellow across each petal. Now I'm going to click my eraser tool, and I'm still selected with airbrush from the time I used it before, and I'm just going to erase a little bit of that yellow. I'm still on the yellow layer, just so I have a little, the red is a little bit clearer there in the center of the flower. So I'm going to go back and add another layer. I decided to add a little darker red there in the center, so I'm going to back to my color dot, pick a darker red, a really darker red, and I'm going to take that brush, lower the opacity so it's not quite so bright, but it's a nice darker contrast in the center. Both flowers, so just work it around. Okay, now I'm going to merge those three layers together, pinch the top layer with the bottom layer, so layer 5 and 7, I've got a finger on each one, and just pinch them together. Now I'm going to take the smudger tool, which is like a finger rubbing the colors together, and I'm just going to go mix those three colors since they're all on one layer now. I'm just going to rub them out a little bit so that it blends a little better. So I've got the darkest red in the middle, and then I've got the yellow over top of the original red. And I'm doing this on both flowers just to blend a little. It looks like a finger at the top, my smudger tool. Okay, I'm going to resize just to see what I'm looking at. And I'm going to go back to my leaf layer. I'm actually clicking my eraser tool. I'm still in that airbrush because I never changed it. And I'm going to just erase a little bit. I'm going to make that smaller. I'm actually erasing a little bit of the green to give it a little bit of a highlight. So that one's a little too bold. I'm going to tap 2 fingers for erase, lower my opacity, and that's a lot better. So I will continue that with the rest of my leaves. And if that's too harsh, 2 finger tap, erase, and finish it out. Okay. So then I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to pick a nice brown. I'm going to go, nope, we'll pick a yellow. I'm going to go back into my brushes, and just whatever brushes there already, I'm just going to color in the spots here in the middle. And get the other one as well. Then we'll go back to the color dot and go back to the red we had before, and I'm just going to clean up the edges a little bit where I went over. Just a tiny bit. So now zoom out to make sure you like what you've just done. And I'm going to go into layers and merge those together. I'm going to merge the color, the outline, and the leaves all into one. Slide to the left and duplicate. And now I have the exact same flower. I'm going to flip it horizontal so it's a mirror image of the first one. And make sure I like the sizing, make sure I like the placement. And I'm going to duplicate that first one again and use the arrow tool to move it, rotate, put it where I want it in the top corner of my journal, and just resize it. So this way, nope, I like it better this way. You can play with things and see how you like them best, and all the flowers match because it's the same flower. They're just a little smaller. Put it where you want it and drop it. I'm going to duplicate one more time. Put it on the other side and flip. And so now we have matching flowers at the top. I'm thinking that's a little bit too many flowers, so I'm going to go back into my layers and swipe to the left and delete. That's better, but I think that flower in the middle is a little too big, so make sure I'm in the right layer, and I'm going to take the arrow tool and just resize it a little bit. That's better. Now I'm going to go back into my layers and add another layer. And I have a folder here just called Jenny for miscellaneous brushes I've bought along the way. These are all from her. These are just shape brushes. And I'm going to select the oval so that I can put in my days of the week. I'm going to pick a nice green, size this a little bit, and just drop the ovals into place. And we'll just work our way across, and two-finger tap to erase, place that a little better. And if I'm on the same layer with everything, I can click the selector tool and draw around my image, and then click the arrow tool and it moves just the one item without moving the entire layer. So that's selector and then draw, and then the arrow moves what I just drew. Okay, so I'll go back and fix any little thing that I find out of place and add one more for Sunday, and then we're good. Now we go back to layers. I'm going to click the N tool and lower the opacity on the green ovals. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to go back to my paint brushes. I'm going to pick a floral pack that was Floral Frames, also from Jenny, and I'm going to select a rectangle. It's a square, but I'm going to make it rectangles. And again, I'm in my own layer. I'm going to tap the screen, click my arrow tool, and position that where I want it. I'm trying to line up to the center, center up and down, and also center left to right. I'm going to go to my layers, slide to the left and duplicate, move that to the top. And if you'll see where they overlap there in the center, it's awfully dark. So I'm going to take my eraser tool and just erase in the center there, just so it's not so overlapping. I'm erasing the top layer and leaving the bottom layer frame alone. You can't really see my eraser moving, but that's what I'm doing. Now I'm going back to my layers, and I want to merge those two together. If they won't pinch together, just click on the top layer and select merge down, and that will put them both on one layer. Now with the selector tool, I can move them together so that my right edge is right over the top of the center. Slide left and duplicate, and now I have two of those. Drop it into place inside of my journal page, and then again I'll take my eraser and just erase a little bit on that top layer, which is the rectangle on the right there, and I'm going to make sure I'm in an airbrush and just erase a little bit off that middle, which is erasing a little bit off of that right rectangle so that it's not so thick there where it overlaps. Once I'm happy with that, I can move on. Go back to my layers, merge those two together, so now all of the greenery is on one layer, and I can move that together with the arrow tool. So then I'll go back and add another layer, go to my brushes, and I'm going to pick drawing pens that I got from Jenny, and I'm just going to pick Artistical because it writes pretty. I'm going to pick a pretty red, and I'm just going to size this so I can see and make sure I'm in the right layer, and just write in my days of the week. Okay, resize that and take a look, see what else I need to add. We'll add another layer, go back to my brushes. I'm going to pick a shader. Let's see. We'll go back to airbrush, basic airbrush from Procreate. Pick my opacity and the size of my brush, and we'll just go over the entire page. Just a little bit, give it some color. And we'll go back to the oval layer. I'm going to click the N and bring down that opacity just a little bit lower, just so the numbers stand out a little more. I'm going to leave on the grid layer and turn off the background color. Go to my wrench tool, share, PNG, save image, that will save it to the camera roll. I'm going to go back into Goodnotes, long press, click image, photos, and pick up that last image we just saved. I'm going to tap and crop, take some of that gray stuff out so it positions better. Click done, and when I drop it into place, it will fit perfectly into my journal page because I used the journal page itself to size it to begin with. Now we drop it into place, and I have a weekly in my 2018 DigiBujo. So there's my 2018, I go to November, I swipe, and there's my week that I just made. Now if I want to add it into my 2019, because I've already started playing in that, I see I have already started November and I have a placeholder for December, but I'm going to add a spare dot page in between November and December. So click the four squares at the top left. The page you're on is the page that is highlighted. I'm going to copy and click done, and then I'm going to find where I want to add the page. I'm going to click the four squares again, click the plus sign, add it where I want it, and I'm going to paste the copied dot page. Click done, and then I can see that I have a new dot page after November, before December. long press image, photos. I'm going to do the same thing again. Pick up that last image, tap and crop, take out the gray stuff again. We're working with the same image. Click done. And again, we're going to drop it into place. Now sizing is just a hair different. I'm going to crop just a little bit more at the bottom, just to take, I'm taking it just to the pages because this is a different journal and it does size just a little bit different. But it still works pretty darned close. So that is my 2019. I can switch at the top there into my big white, and you can see it's the same image. My weekly and my November page is the same in my 2018 as it is in my 2019, just because I've started copying things over, so I'm prepared. Thank you for watching.